Well, I chose police work because when I was growing up as a kid, my uncle lived with us, and he was an officer here. And so I saw him from when I was old enough to realize what kind of a job he did. And of course, they say police officer, little kids get all excited. And so I paid attention to what he was doing. I heard his stories when he came home, saw what he was doing. I started doing ride-alongs. So watched my uncle kind of do his job, met all the people he was working with, got to be friends with them. And when I was 18, I took reserve classes at Chabot. So after high school, I went, I'd do my time at school and then go to Chabot and take the reserve modules. And then when I turned 18 and a half, I got hired as a reserve officer here. I was one of the two youngest hired ever as a reserve officer. And back then, well, still, you have to be 21 to buy bullets. So I had to take my grandmother with me to go buy bullets to go shoot at the range. So it was a little ridiculous, but so uniform officer, reserve officer is basically part-time. I did that for 5 years. The last 2 years of that was in the jail, working in the jail full-time, and then reserve part-time, and then 1989 became a police officer full-time, and have kind of grown in my career since then. So working at a police department, you're at the same, working for the same company basically, doing the same job, but there's a bunch of different varieties of duties you can get. So for me, starting as a civilian employee in the jail, that was the first full-time job here. When I got hired as an officer in 1989, I did patrol for 4 or 5 years, became a field training officer, got back into the reserve organization, kind of giving back to what had helped me get started. Became a reserve FTO, became a liaison, became the reserve coordinator, was on the SWAT team, was not only doing entries, but then eventually that evolved into a sniper position. So out of the 8 years on the SWAT team, I was a sniper for 5 years, and that was an experience, seeing a different view of a SWAT operation. I was a fraud detective for 3 years, motor officer in the traffic unit for 3 years, training sergeant for 3 years. Now I'm back in the traffic unit as a sergeant. So really out of the almost 28 years I've been here, I've had maybe a total of 6, 7, probably about 8 years actually on patrol as an officer, and then doing all these other varieties of work. If you do plan on trying to be a CSI for any of the local departments, you'd really need that chemistry, biology, 4-year master degree, that kind of an education. There's a lot of competition in it right now, and everybody says, because they've seen TV, I want to be a CSI. Well, you have to have that college background and finish school and get that intense education to actually be functional in a crime lab for a police department, whether it's state, local, or federal. So the best piece of advice I have for anybody wanting to become a police officer, we're having trouble now getting good qualified people. So what you may think is a fun thing to do on a Saturday night with your friends is going to come back on you. So stay clean, keep your background good, do the right thing, do your volunteer work, get your education, keep out of trouble. Those are the kind of people we want. We like life experience, but we don't want illegal life experience. So, you know, the college education ahead of time is great because then you don't have to do what I did and go back to school while you're working a shift work. So for me, working midnights, I had to go back to school to finish my 4-year degree. And I did it, but a lot of work. I'm a different case because I started at 18, so I was still, practically finishing high school when I started. But what I tell people now, anybody trying to get hired who's got some idea they want to be involved in law enforcement, is get that education done first. It's just way easier. And if you had that education already, you have that degree, potential for promoting faster, and pay increases come if you've already got your degrees, they come faster.